On purpose, apparently. Hi, Zainab.
Hey Sadaf,
How are you doing?
not bad, not bad. Just back from my daughter's graduation. Full of
Congratulations.
events and excitement. Yeah,
Big milestone. And how is Paris treating you?
it's very well. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I feel very lucky that I have one foot in London and then one foot here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the weather is treating you nicely, I'm assuming, versus over here in London.
Not massively different, huh?
So essentially cloudy with a chance of sun is the usual.
Very precise description. That
Amazing. So, people who have joined us or are going to join, and I'll just introduce a bit. So, I'm Sadaf Javed, who people who don't know, I'm an executive coach, and I started off this company called Quiet Thrivers, which focuses on helping and supporting introverted leaders, hence the name. And with me, I have Zainab. And just a bit of background on how do I know her? Well, she was my boss for a good amount of time, actually, in Unilever when I was there. And I think that there's a lot I learned from her. And also, whatever my leadership style was, eventually, I think it got molded by she continuously giving me a chance to be myself. And that be myself part is not straightforward because she wasn't pushing her way, but she was giving me space to explore who I am. So I think that kind of space we shouldn't take for granted because not a lot of leaders have that heart to do so, but Zainab clearly has that. And today's topic is a bit dedicated to her, but I want to get into her mind and her heart a bit more because it's not a straightforward thing. But before we dive into it, Zainab, if you can just give a brief introduction, that'd be great.
that's about myself. Okay, so I'm Zeynep Özcan and I'm originally Turkish. I started my career at P&G. I worked there for 16 years. Then I moved to Unilever because there was a great opportunity in Turkey. I joined them in hair care. I worked in Turkey for a while. Then I moved to London, and that's where I met Sadaf. And we worked together on this amazing brand, Sunsilk, where, like you were saying, Sadaf, no, we've really discovered ourselves on this journey as well through all the work we were doing on the brand, on understanding the younger people, but also probably because we were such a diverse and multicultural team. So that was amazing. I think it was 5 years or 6 years we worked together. 6 years, I think it was.
Yeah, 6 7 years almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost. And then I moved to another venture, Elida Beauty, and for the past 3 years I'm doing that, and for the past 2 years I'm living in Paris.
Amazing.
That's me briefly. Yeah.
That's great. Now, coming to the topic, um, it's a topic that a lot of us might think it's straightforward. We're talking about um, the importance of compassionate leadership, but at the same time, the challenges associated with it. And the question is around, can compassionate leadership deliver high quality results? Now, it should be simply in our heads that, oh, if you're a nice human, you empathize, you show compassion, then of course that's a good thing. But it's not as straightforward. And I don't have a clear answer in my head that why do I think it's not that straightforward. And that's where I would want to ask you, Zainab, as well, that what are your views on how easy is it being a compassionate leader in an organization?
So Sadaf, do you know when I first joined PNG? This was many years back. Okay, I was 2 months into my role, and do you know the first feedback my manager at the time gave me? It was, "It's all good and well, but you need to show your teeth more." You know, that was the first feedback of my career. Show
Yeah.
your teeth. more. So trying to answer, is it easy? Is it so? I think it's a multi-layered answer to that one, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that feedback kept coming back to me in different shapes and forms. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, so from that point of view, yes, there is a judgment. There's a judgment because it goes against stereotypes. I've
Hmm.
had similar type of feedback, more coming from the positive, like, ah, we never thought a person could be nice and still deliver. Honestly, I don't know in how many shapes and forms and coming from many different cultures. It's not also a cultural thing. I had this.
Hmm.
On the other hand, so that's maybe what's making it a bit more, if you want, difficult because you
Hmm. Hmm.
constantly prove that your way also works.
Hmm.
On the other
Hmm.
hand, when I first received that feedback as a very young manager, honestly, it was time for me to reflect, and I made an active
Hmm.
decision. I said, "Do you know what? This is me. I'm sorry, this is me, and let's see how far I can go with just being true to myself and to my values."
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
that sense, it's easy. Do you know what I mean? If you're true to yourself and your values, that's always easy. You can never go wrong. But then, yes, you are being judged, and you're not stereotypical in that sense.
How did you handle that part? Because obviously there's a lot of conversation happening in your head, right? This is the way I am, and I'll stand my ground. These are my values. But obviously, I don't know if were you able to communicate the same message to your line manager, or it was more like, okay, you've said it, I won't counter it, and then you just moved on being who you are. How did you manage that?
It's a good question. I don't think I've ever, no, I don't remember having an active discussion
Hmm.
with any of my managers on this one. Honestly, Sadaf, I said to myself, let the results speak. So when
Hmm.
the results are there, when you deliver what needs to be delivered, I guess that's probably the best answer, rather than a
Hmm.
theory.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, but
And obviously the results, I think what happens in that instance as well is that when you get feedback, um, which is usually a bit counter count in contrast to your nature, a you sometimes also, sometimes the reaction is no, I'm not that way. Or in some cases you listen and then say, are they right? And then when you think that, and obviously you go into, let me figure it out, let me see if they're right or not. And then you're like, okay, fine, let the performance come in and then everybody will see. But in that moment, it's not easy to counter that type of feedback, because it's not very factual in nature, it's more of a perception based thing. um, and do you think you should have countered it at that time, Zainab?
I don't know, Sadaf. Honestly, I don't know. However, there's one thing I want to now listening to you,
Hmm.
because what is also wrong is just to say, because what I said could also be interpreted as my way or the highway, like I'm not
Yeah.
going to take any
Yeah.
feedback or change.
Yeah.
I think that would be wrong. No
Hmm.
matter what your style is, I think that would be wrong.
Hmm.
The way I've learned to deal with feedback is this: if something feels very wrong to me, I try to separate the what from the how, the
Hmm.
essence from how I will do it. I
Hmm.
try to understand the essence of the feedback
Hmm.
and maybe find a way of doing it in a way that's suitable for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so that's how I try to deal with for example, if I don't know, if, let's say, show your teeth means make sure people do things faster, let's say.
Hmm.
Let's
Hmm.
imagine a
Hmm.
scenario. I don't need to do it in a way that's mean and
Hmm.
stressing people out. I can do it in a way that's winning them over and
Hmm.
a bit more work, but creating that culture where they want to uh,
Contribute.
contribute.
Hmm. Hmm. So that's the interesting part in there is essentially sometimes we do end up getting feedback which either our managers are trying to shake us up, so they end up using words which are a bit too intense, and you end up sometimes taking it too literally as well. So, in that, of I guess what you're saying is when you get that kind of feedback, try to interpret it for yourself. That what is the intent behind it, before we start wrapping our heads around and overreacting or something. So take your time, and obviously your boss is always there to go back and ask and clarify, etc. That is
Correct.
there, but in this instance, it's more like, are you holding people accountable enough? Are you pushing for high quality results or not? I guess that's what they're
That's
trying to say,
mm,
and their perception of holding people accountable might be a bit more direct or aggressive versus yours, right?
yes, yes. Uh, probably. However, I think because I hold myself accountable to high quality results, I do hold everyone who's around me, where we're delivering and where we're working together to deliver an output together, also to
Hmm.
high standards. I don't
Hmm.
think being compassionate at all means you have to make a concession on that.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that. On the contrary, I strongly believe, at least I know that I react to that type of leadership much
Hmm.
strongly. On the contrary, when people feel respected, heard, understood, that's when they want to bring their best selves in.
Hmm.
So in that respect, if you maybe I take one step back and probably the way I choose to lead is based on a belief that as humans, we all have our strengths and we all have our flaws.
Hmm.
So it's all about making sure, as a collective, we complement each other and therefore we're stronger and we do much better together than
Hmm.
individually.
Hmm.
Then the question becomes, how do you make sure people, one, feel the safety to and the motivation to bring their best selves in, and maybe to go out of their comfort zone, to try things and to learn from the mistakes they make.
Hmm.
Only then are you a very strong team, that
Hmm.
really a high performing team.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's a very strong belief that I have. I do not hold the key to anything. We're
Hmm.
only as strong as we are as a team.
Yep. I mean, what you're saying is obviously comes very naturally to you, right? But what we do witness is, and I think what you're also saying right now is that if you want to practice or be a more compassionate leader, one prerequisite is to make sure you develop a psychologically safe work environment where people are encouraged to give an opinion or bring in their own ideas, feel challenged, but don't feel scared or feel the threat of getting reprimanded later on. So that psychologically safe environment becomes quite important to be a compassionate, if you really truly genuinely want to be a compassionate leader. But the reason why I said that this comes naturally to you and easy for you to say that is because um, a lot of leaders, there is a bit of insecurity as well attached to themselves, because at one point they're trying to make their mark in front of their senior leaders, then they have a team as well, and it might be that the person above them um, likes a certain flavor of leadership style. Now, a lot of people, in order to grow faster or to make the boss happy, they simply emulate the style quickly so that they get noticed very quickly. But if you end up following your own principles and values and all those things, and you know things might slow down. But and that temptation to emulate your boss very quickly is very natural and strong. In those moments, how what would you recommend? Because you being a compassionate leader in a company might simply be an extension of you as a person, the way you are outside the work as
Mm,
well. you
mm,
know but there are so many leaders that I've come across, who were my managers in the past, whereby they're completely different humans in the company, extremely aggressive, pushy, borderline bullying, but outside they're like sweethearts. And you're like, what happened over there? What do you think drives a person to suddenly switch to a completely different side of themselves? And if there is there any advice for them on how to stick to their sweetheartedness that they had outside?
okay, this is a so it's very, yeah, because I've never felt compelled to be like that. It's difficult for me to say why would you feel that way. The thing I can say, that I can confidently say, um, is I think success comes from understanding yourself first, understanding what
Hmm.
drives you, what motivates you, what are your strengths, but
Hmm.
also accepting what you're
Yeah.
not good at, accepting and being vulnerable, like showing the vulnerabilities,
Yes.
you know. uh, that then allows people to help you, be it your
Hmm.
manager, be it, those people around you. I think there's a huge strength in accepting that we're not perfect, and that
Hmm.
it's okay to let others help us.
Hmm.
Um, I worked with people along the way, so I won't name them, but I think you will recognize them. That were known to be very strong, if you want, masculine type of, huge drive and aggressive type of
Hmm.
ladies, no? Who, uh, when they were leaving, they came to me saying, "Do you know what? There are a few things I can learn from you." So I think, w- so in any case, like you were saying, right? eh, Don't try to be, so work on making yourself a better version of yourself, but you
Hmm.
cannot be something that you're not. You know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, of course, always take the feedback and work on, how with everyone,
Hmm.
with everyone, on how you can be a better version of yourself. But tomorrow you're not going to be a totally different person all of a sudden,
Yes.
you know. And trying to be something that you're not, I think that's not the recipe for long-term
Yes.
sustainable mental
Yes.
health or success, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think it catches up against you
it
after a while.
Because this is
Um.
a marathon. There's
Yeah.
another point I want to make, Sadaf. At the beginning, you talked about one recipe for compassionate leadership, the psychological safety, one, item on
Hmm.
the recipe. But you know what's the other one? That may maybe feel counterintuitive, but it is to surround yourself with people you respect.
Hmm.
You know, you genuinely, honestly respect, you trust, and
Hmm.
and you learn from. In
Hmm.
our relationship, in the brand, when you think of it, really, all of you, I knew I could trust you. I knew I
Hmm.
had a lot to learn from each individual in that situation.
Hmm.
That then gives you the peace of mind to know that, whatever these people are going to bring
Hmm.
to the
Hmm.
party is going to be for the greater good of the business. So you
Hmm.
want to have that innate trust.
Hmm.
Not I and I've done that in certain cases. Don't have don't I cannot be fully, how do you say, yeah, I make sure I work with individuals who I can really
Hmm.
depend on and trust. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think it's also, Zainab, um, you being able to recognize and being open to listening and seeing what each individual is good at.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that that part of the eyes and the brain and being able to perceive, that's also important, because there are obviously the usual leaders might just come in and say, this is my vision, go for it, and then you're just following the leader, versus being open to recognize each person's expertise,
Hmm.
is quite crucial. And I think one thing which I always appreciate, and because it had an impact on us, is when, for example, you were about to join the team. Before us meeting you, we all had our one on ones booked with you, literally the whole team, which was like a lot of people. And that kind of, even though you wouldn't totally understand us at that in those moments for 30 minutes or whatever, but at least you got a feel for people, and we got a feel for the new leader coming in. So I think those moments, and in a lot of cases, an employee might not appreciate getting challenged directly if the leader is not showcasing that they care for you personally, and they understand you fully. And it builds, it's a relationship, and it takes time to build. You can't just come in and start saying this sucks, this isn't good, this isn't good, and you don't even have a relationship with the person. I think that's where it falls out. I want to kind of get into an area on compassionate leadership, because there's a perception which is around they might be too soft, which might mean if they're soft, then they will make their team get away with bad quality work. Or if they are soft, then it might be that they're not very decisive.
Hmm.
Um, and there might be a question on them having the courage to take a stand.
Hmm.
Those perceptions are there. What is your reaction to those?
It's just I want to. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I want to go why. Because, like I said at the beginning, I have such high delivery expectations from myself. Again, I would then be at odds if
Hmm.
I were at odds with myself if I were in any shape and form sacrificing from the
Hmm.
quality of output I want to see myself deliver,
Hmm.
right? So it's again really it's nothing about the what, it's all about the how you want to get there.
Hmm.
Um, if if anything, uh, I think when people feel listened to, when they feel visible, when they see what they're bringing to the game, at least that's been my experience. I think the wind in the sails is much stronger because you know you're pushing it all together in the same,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
honestly I haven't doubted for 1 second of my career if this is the way I deliver results. I'm
Hmm.
100% convinced. I'm 100% convinced that you deliver much stronger results like this. However, let's think. I think where it can become a question mark. Let's imagine a scenario. There is a tough people decision to be made.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
because normal business delivery. Honestly, I've
Okay.
no. I didn't feel challenged. One bit.
Hmm.
Then on the hard people cases, Sadaf, the way this is honestly the way I see it. When a person is struggling on a business, you know, because we work with smart people, they see it, they feel the pressure, they feel the stress, right? It's not like they live in a parallel universe. No,
Hmm.
you know when the
Hmm.
fit is not there. So again, it is out of respect and out of care of duty that you need to be open with the person
Hmm.
when there's a performance issue or when there's a fit
Hmm.
issue or when there's a problem. So you could try to do it in one of two ways, either by being open and helping them work through it, you know that's the best thing you can do, like coach them, guide them, mentor.
Hmm.
But if it's so much so that there's no fit,
Hmm.
I strongly believe it is also better for the individual to be in an environment where they will flourish
Hmm. Hmm.
versus an environment that's going
Hmm.
to hold them back.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, as long as you do it in a way that's not demeaning, that's not
Hmm.
judging the person's capabilities, but merely the fit in this instance, and try to do it in a way that doesn't harm the individual's self-confidence or make a long-term
Yeah.
damage to their self-confidence. Again, it's all comes really back to the how, you know
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
I had to make such decisions in my career,
Yeah.
and but yeah, you have to do it when you have to do it. It's just honestly helping those individuals through that time also.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's a good point because it's not just about the leader looking after the greater good of the rest of the team by saying bye bye to one person, but it's also closing the loop by ensuring that the way they let that person go is done in a kind way without shattering their self belief.
Yeah.
And some people tend to just get HR to do the dirty work, or make HR sit with you while doing the dirty work. And I think that's where the trust starts breaking down. And it just leaves a bad taste of the reality will always be that when you're asked to leave or you're told or delivered bad news, the reaction towards it, there will always be a reaction. Nobody's going to be like, thank you so much, bye, I get it. But how can you soften the blow to the person that without shattering their uh, dignity and respect? I think that's important.
That is the point. That is
Hmm.
precisely the point. You're right. The outcome of that instance for that doesn't change.
Yeah.
But how much long term damage do you do to an individual?
Yes.
In many cases, young people. I think that's
Hmm.
what I try to be really aware of. Uh,
Hmm.
I really
Hmm.
try to be aware of.
Hmm. There's a book which I wish I had read in the earlier, since I'm doing a lot of reading these days. A book by this author called Ben Horowitz called Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Okay.
Um, and he's basically a very famous startup CEO, tech guru, and his struggle and etc. And he has a whole chapter dedicated to how to fire senior executives, which I found quite interesting. And one tip that whether his coach at that time told him was that at the end of the feedback session, the outcome should never change. The outcome needs to remain the same. If suddenly the outcome is changing, then you're just going to increase the pain and just drag a decision. And I think that's where, if somebody is considered to be kind and compassionate, sometimes they might get carried away and they're like, oh my God, let me talk about this later. However, I think that's the misconception as well about compassionate leadership, that people just think that it's about empathy, and it's not just about empathy.
It's
It's
not just about empathy, but even if it's about empathy, Sadaf, it is also the EQ to understand that
mm,
prolonging this is not going to help anyone.
mm,
If the
mm,
person doesn't really stand a chance, and you know it,
mm,
it's actually not compassion, it's lying. If you
mm,
need them to
mm.
believe
True,
otherwise, you know,
true.
uh, and that's honestly not compassion. It's avoiding a problem for yourself more than trying to help that person.
Mm,
You know
mm.
what I
You're
mean?
right. Yeah. We got a very interesting comment right now. First, I want to say hi, Akib. Nice to see you as well. Strangely, I can't reply to it on this chat for some reason. We have another person by the name of Rizwan Ahmed. I know him from Unilever. Now he's a big CEO as well in Pakistan, runs his digital marketing agency. And I think what he's highlighting is good because it talks about that unkind actions are often mistaken for drivers of results. And that's a very important distinction. Um, that how is kindness fostered into the environment from a top down level? I think the top down level is very critical. Um, Otherwise, we'll have the same thing. Okay, my boss is a bit aggressive. He likes being aggressive. I will be aggressive. Whereas the flavor totally changes, the environment totally changes in the organization if the senior leader is demonstrating kindness as well. And and it it's a book I refer to all the time in most of my coaching sessions as well. Is a lot of leaders have problem in giving feedback, and they avoid it, they don't like it. They wait, and a lot of them avoid it because they're afraid of the reaction that they will get from the person receiving it. And then they wait for the 6 month or the 1 year one, and then when they give feedback, it comes as a shock to the other party.
Mm.
um, and it's that's the part which we all need to avoid, because you're just not, by delaying that feedback, you're actually being unkind to the
But
person.
do, do you know, Sadaf? So let me talk about Jean Laurent, who we both know.
Yes.
No, um, he sometimes would have provided me with maybe with the most critical feedback I may have received. I have always
Mm,
appreciated it because I
mm,
knew, I was convinced it was coming from a place of only trying to help me,
yes.
you know, because somehow he did make me feel like I see you for who you are. I know your strengths, I know your improvement areas, okay? And
Mm.
in this instance, you need my help. So listen.
Yeah.
um, and actually, if anything, that made me feel more cared for. That he would go that extra mile to see me for who I am
Yes.
and give me, if you want, tailored feedback.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I think there is a bit of that psychological safety point that we were talking about.
Mm,
So if
mm,
you,
mm,
in the relationship, if you're feeling that psychological safety, then you don't take feedback as a threat either.
mm,
You see
mm,
it as honestly as a gift, you know.
mm, mm, mm,
And yeah, thanks to our relationship with Jean Laurent, I do feel like I've evolved into a better version of myself.
mm,
Uh,
mm, mm.
and what's more valuable than that, you know?
No, you're right. And there's a distinction that they make, which I found like a good way to summarize it as well. There's a group called Compassionate Leader Circle, and they have a simple thing. So sympathy is about pitying,
Huh.
right? Empathy is about understanding somebody's pain, and compassion is about actively preventing and alleviating somebody's pain. So I found that what I found interesting is that there is an action element in there. They the compassionate leader is not just going to be like, oh, I feel you, but it's more about, okay, let me help you get through this, and I'll take some actions, and that's where the courage starts coming in from the leader. And Jean Leno is an interesting example, because he wouldn't just leave you hanging with feedback. He would actually actively take some steps
True,
to get you to fix it quickly,
true, true.
right? And I think that's where the and if a leader is doing that, then results will come.
Mm,
I think that's the reality of it,
that's the
right?
reality because you feel more committed, you feel more motivated, more engaged. Exactly. And
Yeah.
I agree with what Rizwan said. So it's really, why is compassionate soft? I honestly don't understand.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Soft in the in a negative
Yeah.
connotation in this case.
Yes, yes. And you know, we were having that discussion as well. The perception that compassionate leadership, is it a perception or reality? Is it more about having a bit of the feminine side of yourself,
Mm. Yeah,
being
that's
more?
what we were discussing, yeah, before the call. Like, so because I've been working for a while now, I worked with a lot of female leaders. But in the
Hmm,
90s, when I started working,
hmm,
uh, even female leaders didn't have to show their feminine side. No, you had to
hmm,
emulate the masculine style of leadership,
hmm, hmm.
which maybe has its own merits. But like with everything in life, there's a reason why you have the yin yang. You know, we need to
Yes.
complement each other, right? We need to complement each other, and that's why I think we have a duty to bring the feminine side to the workplace as well. Probably there'll be times where they need to balance each other. Maybe,
Hmm,
probably
hmm,
one on its own is not enough,
hmm,
but there wasn't enough feminine
hmm,
leadership in the
hmm,
corporate world in the past. I think it's now, people are with all the appreciation of authenticity, being true to your values, being true to who you are. We're starting to see this more and more.
hmm,
The
hmm,
workplace is what I.
hmm. And I think I have a lot of good expectations from the younger generation of leaders that are growing and developing, because now they're not even going to see it this way, the
True.
feminine and the masculine side of leadership will just have hopefully one definition.
One definition.
Obviously the context was different, the societal criterias of success were very different at that time versus now. So I'm hoping that there will be more space. It won't be considered as, if there is a feminine side to it, so maybe it's weak or maybe it's totally maternal
Mm,
itself. And I think an important factor as well, because in organizations, we tend to create a lot of confusion by saying this is like a family,
mm,
and it's not a family, because then that would lead to very high expectations and then disappointment
mm,
itself. The best you can assume is that, like, the CEO of Netflix says that the best is to think that it's like a very high performing sports team, that is dependent on each other to deliver high quality results, and you have a coach in there that directs you and helps you when you need that help itself. So kind of like the Ted Lasso
mm.
philosophy, very compassionate, considered to be soft sometimes, but persevered and kind of broke through. So that's an important side. And for compassionate leadership as well, this part becomes quite tricky, because um, there is a fine line when you become too parental.
Uh, Fair enough. Let me reflect on that point. I guess. I guess there's a bit of what you said earlier, right, Sadaf? There's a difference between sympathy and compassion,
Yeah.
and I guess compassion in itself acknowledges um, it's for that individual. It's not about
Hmm.
your role, so to speak, but what that individual needs at that point in time.
Hmm.
Um, it's not about being overbearing, being protective. It's not. It's really, honestly, shouldn't be about that. That's when you maybe be. Well, even as a parent, you shouldn't be overprotective. But that aside, maybe that's when it can turn into a wrong type of a relationship. Yeah,
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
it can turn into a
Hmm.
wrong type
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
relationship. Yeah.
Is that something you yourself have, because there was always a vibe that came from you, right? um, but we would figure out very quickly that, wait a second, she's not our work mom. In the words of Mia Fuentes, work mom. Um, so, and we were very quick, and the reason why I would quickly get it that no, she's not, is because I think the accountability, the expectation, you knew you're not going to get away with bad, like
Mm.
bad quality output with Zainab. Like that was very clear in my head that it's not like I'll be able to get away with it, because the questions will come itself. How did you? Was it like a conscious effort in your head, or it is the way you were? How did you remind yourself, considering we used to spend so much time together every day?
Serap, I guess no, I don't know if I've thought about this actively while I was, like while we
Hmm.
were working together. However, one thing and one observation maybe I can share with you is um, I usually try to keep so in the work life there are a lot of things that go wrong, right? A lot of things that go wrong. I mean, almost like that's why we're there, no? Things will go
Hmm.
wrong, and we
Hmm.
need we need to fix them. Even in the toughest of the conditions, I've always put my effort to to understand the situation, the problem, the issue on hand, not
Hmm.
make it about the person.
Hmm.
Wha- uh, and in trying to do that, then you move the person from being defensive to participative in the solution finding process.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, in that way, it's a non-threatening, if you know.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, it's non-threatening in that sense.
Hmm.
If that's why you may liken it to a mother-child
Hmm.
relationship. Uh,
Hmm.
you should, in a healthy mother-child relationship, you
Yes.
should feel threatened, no,
Hmm.
but pushed to thrive.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the what I think probably is flawed in a mother-child relationship is ultimately the mother needs to hold and show the way, and what is right, what is wrong, and tell the child what is wrong, what is right, especially at a younger age. That's fundamentally against my belief in our working relationship.
Yes.
I see ourselves as equals in this relationship.
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
we don't have yeah hierarchical position.
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
we just have different things to bring to this
Hmm.
to this relationship. um, Recognizing that it is my job to make sure that that we have one vision, that we know how to work together. So of course, as a leader, you have other duties to the team that you're working with, but that doesn't mean uh, I'm the holder of the beacon in terms of what is right and what is wrong.
Hmm.
I think that's a fundamental difference, probably,
Hmm.
to being
Hmm.
a parent.
And there are some leaders as well where sometimes they have such a personality that they have that charisma. They come across as some sort of visionaries, and the people under them, and no fault to theirs, because I mean that's the way they are. They're kind of gifted in that sense. But the people who are working for them, they continuously go through this mindset of wanting to impress them, wanting them to be proud of them itself. They really want that pat on the back. Um, and in that kind of a situation, I'm very sure you must have gone seen it, experienced it as well. um, is Do you think the leader is at fault in that scenario?
It's You cannot say that, no, because like you're saying, um okay, no, it's a if we're talking about authenticity, and it
Hmm.
is, if they are more visionaries, what is
Hmm.
type 8, I think, no, on Enneagram,
Hmm.
uh, then that's their style. However, within that style, then that leader needs to find a way of still making other people seen, recognized, and valued.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
wouldn't know what that, within that style, how that would look like, but
Hmm.
that's what I also tried to say at the beginning. I think um, all types of leadership comes with their pros and cons, right?
Yes, true.
So it's trying to find a way of doing things in a way that works with your values, that works
Hmm.
with who you are, but not neglecting the needs of the others, or like, yeah.
Hmm. Yes, I guess what you're trying to get to that is such leaders, they'll have to keep their, not just get swayed by their charisma and everybody clapping for the boss, and people standing up when they walk in, people saying, "Boss, you tell me how to do it." Like, there is that. I think they have to pick on the vibes as well. That am I taking in enough input from my people?
But no, Sadaf, not look, everyone have their unique strengths. Some
Yeah, true.
people may be gifted on visioning, okay, but then those people, what is vision without execution, let's say,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So all of us have our strengths and improvement areas. There's
Hmm.
not one of us who
Hmm.
can do the whole show just on.
Hmm.
I
True.
think it comes from recognizing that, first of all.
Hmm.
um, then if you accept that, yes, maybe you excel at that, but you need people to help you see it
Hmm.
through.
Hmm.
Therefore, yeah, there's room
Hmm.
for in a team. There's room for different styles, for different
Hmm.
strengths, and if we work well, we can also rely on each other to compensate for our weaknesses.
True. And I think then what becomes important in this is, what you don't want as a leader is that people becoming too dependent on you. And for such people who have very strong personalities, people wait for instructions from their side to start activating, because they just want to make sure that the boss is happy, and they don't want to disappoint them, because of the personality they have. So then I think for any leader, it becomes quite important that who are your successors going to be, and how will you be bringing them to be able to um, take over in the future if needed. Instead of, like, when there was no Steve Jobs, the question was who.
Hmm.
But obviously, Tim Cook was being groomed accordingly to kind of take over. Obviously, he's not like Steve Jobs, but you see a bit of the vision in there as well, or the way he runs the organization. It will never be the same, but it's not like they're not growing. They're still the most highly valued organization in the world. So I think that succession planning becomes quite critical, um, if you have that good problem to have, a visionary, strong personality.
That is very true. But as an individual who works with such a leader, who may be
Hmm.
emitting a lot of, you know, who may be not leaving room for the individual, I think
Hmm.
also for it's also your responsibility to see and recognize your own value, and
Hmm.
also finding a way of working with such strong personalities.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, Even if
Hmm.
you're not, let's say, being groomed to be the successor of that
True.
person, in any work environment, you need to, that's your duty to yourself. You need to feel like you're growing, you're learning. There's something in this for you.
Hmm.
You need to
Hmm.
demand that. You
True.
need to demand that.
True. I think that part becomes, because in this instance, I was thinking more from the leader's point of view, but the person receiving that leadership, I think for them it becomes quite important that, hold on, question it, see if this works for you, does it fit your value system, because at the end of the day, the common objective is your growth, but it also needs to be at the benefit of the organization.
But you're only a leader if you have people
True.
to lead. Like
Yeah.
otherwise you could run a one-man show.
Hmm. Hmm.
Again, Sadaf, I honestly, even if it's Steve Jobs, how can one single person be better than, you know, us collectively? Like, how is
Yeah.
that? That's
Yeah.
not plausible.
Yes. Yes. And even I think it is an old video of Steve Jobs in which he says that hire people who are better than you.
Why exactly?
Otherwise, how would I solve the problems? I won't be able to. I don't know everything. So you have to
Exactly.
hire them who are better than you.
You have to. That's why I'm saying you have to surround yourself with people you respect,
True.
that you trust.
It comes back to that essentially.
It comes back to that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And then with that healthy working relationship, honestly, problems will always happen. Always, it's
Hmm.
inevitable. But
Hmm.
find the strength to you've done it before. You can do it again. You find the strength in each other to keep persevering. How many
Hmm.
times did we surrender, Sadaf? I mean, we never surrendered, no? We've adapted. We've always looked for a way of solving the
Yes.
problems. We've been through a lot,
Yes.
many things. But
Yes.
yeah,
And I like you say that because again I was I it took me some time to understand this point that somebody was making, that if you're compassion, there are higher chances you will have a more resilient team.
yes,
And you're right, that is the recipe to do it, itself. The action part of it, learning from it, asking yourself what did I get out of it, keep moving on.
yeah, yeah. You make a mistake. We're all human. We will make mistakes.
Hmm.
It is about then collectively understanding what went wrong, how do we avoid it, how does it not
Hmm.
happen again. It's that,
Hmm.
and that is what makes businesses and companies
Yes.
stronger.
Run.
Learning
Hmm.
from your mistakes. Otherwise, you only keep doing, what you know. Never expand your horizons and never do anything that's breakthrough. But to
Hmm.
be able to do that, you need that psychological safety. You need that
Yes.
support. You know.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So looks like we have made a case for compassionate leadership. um what I think what I'm getting from this is it's results. If you're not result focused, then I don't think you can call yourself a compassionate leader in the first place.
yeah.
Then maybe at best you're a very empathetic leader and that's it.
Mm,
Because results cannot you cannot let go of it. Because if you are not being direct with the people, then it will have an impact on results. So it's a prerequisite,
it's a pre-
itself. I think that's there. Getting to hire the right type of people, that becomes an important pillar in this case as well. And the after effects of compassionate leadership will always be resilience and learning itself. And yeah, psychologically, a lot of it is top driven, I would say. If you want the system to run,
mm,
the top person has to make the system run, and then the system will run only, otherwise it's not going to run. And hence the psychologically safe environment, not only the leader should practice it, but the leader needs to educate the people in the team that how they need to also practice it with their own sub teams. Otherwise then it's there's no point of it,
mm,
itself. So I hear you on that one. Now that we're getting into a wrap up closing
mm.
situation, so almost an hour, I want to ask you, Zainab, that was there a moment in your career where you were like, I don't think being nice and kind is working for me. I wish I could have been a bit more direct. Any regrets in some moment?
Not in that way, Sadaf, but there have been two cases, I think, in my career, which it's now almost 30 years. So you could
Hmm.
say it's minor, but still, thinking about those, it hurts. Where my compassion and understanding was used against me.
Hmm.
Uh, there were two such cases,
Hmm.
which I have to say does hurt.
Hmm.
That happens, it hurts, and it's coming from the people who I had. They were not my bosses. Like, it's not a
Hmm.
career limiting
Thing.
something I'm
Hmm.
talking about. It's just what I got in return for showing the compassion I had with certain individuals.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
does hurt.
Hmm. But
Quite a
obviously that did not
bit.
discourage you.
No,
That
no,
didn't discourage you.
I don't think it says something about me. It says something
Oh,
about
yeah, true.
people who chose to treat it like that. Uh,
True.
yeah.
Great. On that happy note, now that we've built a case for it, I thank you so much, Jenna, for being so open
Thank
in
you
this
for
conversation.
inviting me, Sadaf. No, thank you.
Great. And I will be putting this up, the recording itself, if anybody wants to take a look. But thank you so much, everyone, whoever joined.
Thank you.
And yeah, and stay tuned for the post when I post the full video. Thank you.